Welcome to True Crime Tuesday, where the truth is scarier than fiction. Each week, we dive deep into the darkest corners of human nature, exploring real-life crime cases, unsolved mysteries, and infamous killers. From chilling disappearances to horrifying serial crimes, these stories are as disturbing as they are true. So if you think you can handle the horror, stay tuned, because some of these cases are so terrifying, you may not sleep tonight. The haunting of the Greenbrier Ghost. Some ghosts are born from tragedy, some from violence, but only one ghost in American history has ever testified in court to name her own murderer. A lonely farmhouse stands against the backdrop of dense primeval forest. Smoke curls from the chimney, disappearing into the cold morning air like a departing soul. Greenbrier County, West Virginia, January 1897. These mountains have always been a place where the veil between the living and the dead hangs thin. In these hills, old ways and old beliefs persisted long after they'd faded elsewhere. The early settlers brought their superstitions with them from the old world, notions of haunts and curses, of souls that couldn't rest, of the dead who walked among the living with unfinished business. In the distance, the church bells ring. Then their sound is shattered by a woman's blood-curdling scream. Mary Jane Hester, 59. Her weathered face, a map of hardship and resilience, bolts upright in bed. The room is sparsely furnished but meticulously kept. A Bible sits open on her nightstand next to a candle burned nearly to the base. The pounding at her door continues. Mary Jane clutches a worn shawl around her shoulders and hurries through the darkened house. Mary Jane Hester hadn't seen her daughter Zona in weeks, not since Zona had married that stranger, a drifter who'd come to work as a blacksmith in their small community. A man Mary Jane had distrusted from the moment she laid eyes on him. Mary Jane opens the front door. A neighbour in their 40s stands with hat in hand, shifting uncomfortably, unable to meet her eyes. "Mrs. Hester, I'm afraid there's been a tragedy. It's Zona," the neighbour said in a thick, somber, emotional voice. Mary Jane doesn't scream or collapse. Instead, her face hardens like stone, a flash of something knowing in her eyes, as if she's been expecting this news. "What's he done to her?" The neighbour looks startled by her response. "Done? Nothing, ma'am. Doctor says it was her heart. Just stopped, sudden-like." Mary Jane's hand tightened on her shawl, knuckles white. "No, not her heart, not my Zona," she said under her breath. Later that morning, a modest cabin with a small vegetable garden, now withered in winter. Several horses and wagons are parked outside. Men in dark clothes carry a simple pine coffin from the house. Mary Jane arrives in a neighbour's wagon. Her face is composed, but her eyes burn with quiet fury and suspicion. She moves with purpose toward the cabin. They said her daughter Zona had collapsed suddenly while doing household chores. A heart attack, according to her husband, Edward Shue. A tragedy, but nothing suspicious, nothing worth investigating. Edward Shue, 35, stands in the doorway, tall, handsome in a rough way, with dark features, and a charismatic presence. He's dressed in black, weeping dramatically, his shoulders heaving with apparent grief, yet his eyes remain cold, calculating as they follow the coffin.
My dear Zona, my poor sweet wife, taken from me too soon,
Edward cries theatrically in a broken voice. Mary Jane watches him with naked suspicion, her eyes narrowing. She notices how he positions himself to block the entrance to the house. But mothers know things that others don't. They sense truths that lie beneath the surface. And Mary Jane Heaster knew immediately that something was terribly wrong with the story of her daughter's death. Zona's body lies in an open coffin. The room is stifling with the scent of flowers meant to mask other odours. Edward hovers over the coffin possessively, repeatedly arranging and rearranging a high-necked dress with a strange scarf around his dead wife's neck. Mary Jane approaches to view her daughter one last time, but Edward smoothly but forcefully blocks her path. "Don't touch her, she's at peace now. Don't disturb her peace," he aggressively whispers. His breath smells of whiskey despite the early hours. Mary Jane tries to move closer, but Edward physically positions himself between her and the coffin. "I want to see my daughter proper, Edward," Mary Jane says. Eyes hardening, Edward says, "You're seeing her now, that's enough." Edward Shue wouldn't let anyone near Zona's body. He dressed her himself, unusual for the time, and wrapped a scarf high around her neck. He became hysterical whenever anyone approached the coffin too closely. Mary Jane reaches past him, attempting to adjust something on Zona's dress. Edward grabs her wrist, squeezing painfully, his charming facade dropping for a moment to reveal something feral beneath. "I said, don't touch her," Edward said, threatening with a quiet voice. Their eyes lock in silent combat. Mary Jane's gaze doesn't waver despite his crushing grip. "This isn't over, Edward Shue, not by a long measure," Mary Jane said under her breath. She pulls away, rubbing her wrist where red marks are already forming. She notices Dr. Knapp, in his 60s, an elderly physician, watching this exchange with newfound interest. Cold rain falls as Zona's coffin is lowered into the muddy ground. Mary Jane stands apart from the other mourners, wrapped in a black shawl, watching Edward sob dramatically for the gathered crowd. As they buried her daughter, Mary Jane Heaster made a silent promise to uncover the truth no matter the cost, no matter what strange paths she might have to walk. The mourners disperse, hurrying to escape the downpour. Edward is led away by sympathetic neighbours, his theatrical grief continuing. Mary Jane remains alone by the fresh grave after others have left. She kneels in the mud, uncaring of her dress, and takes a small embroidered handkerchief from her pocket. She presses it to the wet soil of the grave, then carefully folds and pockets it. "I'll find the truth, my girl. I swear it on my soul," she whispers, barely audible above the rain. That night, Mary Jane kneels by her bed, the soil-stained handkerchief before her, praying intensely into the dim candlelight. A small worn daguerreotype type of Zona as a small girl sits beside the handkerchief. "Zona, my child, if you were taken before your time, give me a sign. Show me the truth. Don't rest until justice is done. Come to me if you can, Mary Jane whispers fervently. The candle flickers wildly as if caught in a sudden draft. The temperature in the room plummets. Mary Jane's breath becomes visible. She looks up, scanning the shadows of the room, expectant. I'm here, child. I'm listening. The candle steadies again. Mary Jane continues her vigil deep into the night. Fortnight later, in Mary Jane's bedroom. Mary Jane sleeps fitfully, tossing in her bed. The room is eerily silent, except for the ticking of the clock and the occasional creak of the old house settling. The clock stops ticking. The temperature drops suddenly and dramatically. Mary Jane's breath becomes visible in the freezing air. A fine layer of frost appears on the window glass. She stirs, sensing something. Her eyes open slowly, then widen. At the foot of her bed stands Zona, 23, pale and translucent. Her beauty is still evident despite her ghostly appearance. She wears the same high neck dress from her funeral, but now the high collar is open, revealing dark, mottled bruises around her neck. Her skin has a bluish tint, where it's not discolored by bruising. Mary Jane gasps, sitting upright, fully awake now, but not frightened, more awed. Is this really you, child? She says breathlessly. Zona's ghost moves closer. Her movements are fluid, but wrong somehow, as if her body no longer obeys natural laws. Her head tilts at an unnatural angle that would be impossible for a living person.
Mother, he did this to me.
Zona's ghost, her voice is distorted. Zona slowly turns her head, revealing that her neck is grotesquely broken, the vertebrae visibly protruding through her translucent skin at an impossible angle.
He broke my neck, put his hands around my throat, and choked the life from me while I begged for mercy.
Mary Jane reaches out instinctively, her hand passing through the apparition with a shiver of cold.
Who, child, who did this to you?
Mary Jane asked, tearfully but controlled. Zona's ghost whispers, Edward. As she speaks the name, the ghost grows more solid, more present. The room grows colder still. Objects on Mary Jane's dresser begins to rattle. Zona's ghost.
He killed me
Because I wouldn't cook his dinner to his liking. Because the meat was tough. Because I wasn't the perfect, obedient wife he wanted. The ghost approaches Mary Jane, placing a cold, intangible hand near her cheek. Frost forms on Mary Jane's skin where the ghost's fingers hover.
He will kill again, Mother. There were others before me, 2 wives before me, both gone. I wasn't the first. I won't be the last.
Mary Jane shudders at the ethereal touch, but doesn't pull away.
Tell me what to do, how to prove it.
No one will believe me without proof, Mary Jane says.
My neck is broken, my windpipe crushed. The truth is written on my body, hidden beneath the scarf he was so careful about.
The ghost begins to fade, becoming more transparent, her form dissipating like mist.
Don't go. How can I make them believe me? Mary Jane asks in a desperate tone.
I will return, 4 nights. I will show you everything. Make them dig me up, Mother. Make them see what he did to me. Zona's ghost, voice fading but echoing. The apparition dissipates completely. Mary Jane sits alone in the darkness, shaking, not from fear, but from resolve. I'll make them see, child. I promise you that.
The second night, Mary Jane sits waiting in a chair beside her bed, a Bible open up on her lap, a candle burning. She's not sleeping this time, she's waiting. Again, the room grows cold. The candle gutters but doesn't go out. Zona appears more substantial than before. This time, she demonstrates in horrifying detail how Edward attacked her, reenacting her own murder. She turns her head at impossible angles, showing how he broke her neck first, then strangled her to make sure she was dead. He watched the life drain from my eyes. He smiled, Mother. He smiled as I died. Mary Jane watches, tears streaming down her face, but she doesn't look away. The third night. Zona's ghost shows Mary Jane more details. How Edward arranged her body, how he covered the bruises, how he lied to the doctor who arrived too late to examine her properly. He told everyone I collapsed while doing chores. A weak heart, he said. But I was strong. You know I was strong. Mary Jane, the strongest of my children. Dr. Nat barely looked at me. Edward wouldn't let him. Already had me dressed for burial. Already had the scarf tight around my neck. Mary Jane takes notes now, writing down every detail her daughter's ghost reveals. The fourth night. Zona's final visitation. This time, she tells Mary Jane about Edward's previous wives. The first left him after he beat her nearly to death. The second didn't escape. He told me she died of a fall. It was no fall, Mother. The ghost begins to fade earlier than before. Don't leave yet. There's more I need to know, Mary Jane said. You have enough now. Make them listen. Make them dig. My body will tell the rest of the story. Zona's ghost almost gone. As the ghost disappears completely, Zona's ghost voice is lingering. Justice, Mother. I can't rest without justice. Mary Jane sits in the empty room. Steely determination on her face. Neither can I, child. Neither can I. John Alfred Preston, 40s, a county prosecutor, sits at his desk reviewing papers as Mary Jane Heaster stands before him, resolute. Preston is educated, skeptical, but not unkind. Preston said in a skeptical but respectful tone, Let me understand clearly, Mrs. Heaster. You're claiming your daughter's ghost told you she was murdered. 4 nights she came to me. Each night, she showed me how he killed her, broke her neck, and strangled her after an argument over dinner, Mary Jane said. Preston sighs, removing his spectacles, pinching the bridge of his nose. Mrs. Heaster, grief can play terrible tricks on the mind. These nightmares, Mary Jane interrupted firmly. They weren't nightmares, and I'm not some hysterical old woman. My daughter was murdered by Edward Shue, and I can prove it if you'll exhume her body. Preston studies her face, searching for signs of madness, but finding only steely determination. Do you understand what you're asking? To disturb your daughter's eternal rest based on a visitation? Mary Jane, I'm asking for justice, for the law to do what it's meant to do, she said. Preston considers this. Then, there was some irregularities in how this was handled, and dressed it. The doctor was late arriving, and Shue had already moved the body and dressed it. Dr. Knapp mentioned to me that Shue wouldn't let anyone near the body at the wake. Mary Jane leans forward, sensing an opening. Then you have reason enough without my dreams, without my daughter's ghost. Preston looked surprised at her tactical shift.
You're willing to set aside your experience? Mary Jane with cunning. I know what I saw, but I also know what men like you need to act. Give me the exhumation, and the truth will speak for itself. Preston studies her for a long moment, then nods slowly. I'll petition the judge for an exhumation order. But prepare yourself, Mrs. Heaster. If we find nothing unusual, you'll find what my daughter showed me. Her neck broken, her throat crushed by his hands. Cemetery day. A small crowd of curious onlookers has gathered to watch as workers dig up Zona's grave. Among them stands Dr. Knapp, along with Preston and several officials. Edward Shue is held back by two deputies as he shouts and struggles, his handsome face contorted with rage. This is desecration. You have no right. Let my wife rest in peace. No right. He is enraged. Mary Jane stands apart from the crowd, watching Edward's display with cold eyes. Edward Shue protested violently against the exhumation. He claimed it was against God's will to disturb the dead, but the law proceeded regardless. The coffin is pulled from the earth, mudsliding off its sides. Even some of the officials look uncomfortable at this violation of death's sanctity. In the doctor's examination room later, the coffin lid is removed. Dr. Knapp begins his examination of Zona's remains, while Preston and other officials watch from a respectful distance. Mary Jane sits in a corner, face impassive, hands folded in her lap. Dr. Knapp, in a clinical tone, trying to remain professional, I'll need to remove the scarf and collar to complete the examination. He carefully unwraps the fabric from Zona's neck. The officials lean closer, then recoil at what they see. Dr. Knapp's voice shifting to shock. Good Lord! Preston steps forward, his face paling at what he sees. Is that... Her neck is broken, violently twisted almost completely around. And these marks... Dr. Knapp points to dark bruising visible even through decomposition. These are finger marks, deep ones. Someone strangled this woman with considerable force. Preston turns to Mary Jane, who sits perfectly still, tears streaming silently down her face. Just as she showed me, Mary Jane whispered. Exactly as Zona's ghost had described, her neck was broken between the first and second vertebrae. Her throat showed evidence of strangulation by human hands. What had seemed like the ramblings of a grieving mother had proven horrifyingly accurate. Court weeks later. A packed courthouse, the trial has become a sensation, drawing people from neighbouring counties. Edward Shue sits at the defence table, looking considerably less charismatic than before. His eyes dart nervously around the room. Preston addresses the jury with quiet confidence. The evidence before you is clear and incontrovertible. Zona Heaster Shue died not from natural causes, but by the violent hands of her husband. He gestures to a medical illustration of neck vertebrae being shown to the jury. Dr. Knapp will testify that the broken neck and strangulation marks could only have been inflicted by another person, a strong person, a man with experience in metal work, whose hands were powerful enough to snap bone. Edward shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his lawyer whispering urgently to him. During the investigation, a darker picture of Edward Shue emerged. He had been married twice before. His first wife had divorced him on grounds of extreme cruelty and repeated life-threatening abuse. His second wife had died under mysterious circumstances, a fall downstairs that no one witnessed. Later, Mary Jane sits in the witness box. Preston questions her carefully, aware that this testimony must be handled delicately. Mrs. Heaster, please tell the court what made you first suspect foul play in your daughter's death. Mary Jane looks directly at Edward as she speaks. He can't meet her gaze. He wouldn't let anyone near her body. Kept arranging that scarf that kept her neck covered. Wouldn't even let me, her mother, touch her one last time. A man with nothing to hide doesn't act that way. And after the funeral, what compelled you to come to my office? Preston asked. Mary Jane hesitates, then straightens her shoulders. My daughter came to me. Murmurs swept through the courtroom. The judge bangs his gavel for order. Could you elaborate on what you mean by that? Mary Jane, 4 nights in a row, Zona's spirit appeared to me. She turned her head like this. Mary Jane demonstrates a horrible angle that makes some jurors wince, showing me how he broke her neck. She told me he'd strangled her because the dinner she'd cooked displeased him, because the meat was tough. The courtroom erupts in shocked whispers. The judge bangs his gavel repeatedly for order. The defense saw Mary Jane's testimony as a gift. What jury would convict based on a ghost story? They decided to cross-examine her extensively about these supernatural visitations, hoping to discredit the entire case. The defense attorney, 50s, smug and confident, approaches Mary Jane. Mrs. Heaster, you expect this court to believe that your deceased daughter's ghost gave you evidence? He said mockingly. I've told you what happened. You asked and I answered truthfully, Mary Jane said, unflinching. Did this apparition appear at the foot of your bed? Or perhaps it came through the wall? Scattered laughter ripples through the court. She came 4 nights, each time the same, each time showing me her broken neck and telling me who broke it, Mary Jane continued. And did your daughter's ghost happen to mention any other details convenient to your suspicions? She told me the truth, the same truth that Dr. Knapp found when they exhumed her body. You can mock me all you want, sir, but her neck was broken exactly as she showed me. The bruises on her throat were exactly where she said his hands had been, she said coldly. The laughter dies away. The defense attorney falters slightly at her unwavering certainty. I didn't ask to see her ghost. I didn't ask for any of this. But I won't deny what I saw. And I won't let her killer go free because the truth came to me in an unusual way. Several jurors nod almost imperceptibly. The defense's strategy backfired spectacularly. Mary Jane Heaster never wavered in her testimony, never showed doubt or confusion. And while some jurors might have dismissed the ghost story, they couldn't dismiss the medical evidence or the mother's absolute conviction. Later in the courtroom that day, Edward Shue takes the stand, sweating visibly. His charm has abandoned him entirely now. Preston, Mr. Shue, You've heard Dr. Knapp's testimony that your wife's neck was broken and that she showed signs of manual strangulation. How do you explain these injuries? The doctor could be mistaken. The body was decomposed, and if not, perhaps she fell, injured herself when I wasn't home. A fall that broke her neck and left finger marks around her throat, Preston said. Edward glares but has no answer. Let's discuss your previous marriages, Mr. Shue. Your first wife divorced you for extreme cruelty, did she not? For beating her unconscious on multiple occasions? That has nothing to do with Zona, Edward expressed angrily. And your second wife? The one who died so suddenly from a fall downstairs that no one witnessed? What was the cause of her death again? Edward's face darkens with rage. For a moment, the mask slips entirely, and everyone in the courtroom gets a glimpse of the monster beneath. This is persecution. You have no proof of anything. Just an old woman's ghost stories. Edward shouting. His outburst causes several jurors to lean away from him instinctively. One elderly female juror crosses herself. We have a broken neck, Mr. Shue. We have finger marks on your wife's throat. We have your strange behavior with her body after death. And we have your violent past. What we don't have is your explanation for any of it, Preston said calmly. Edward sits in seething silence, trapped. The jury foreman stands to deliver the verdict. The courtroom is utterly silent. Mary Jane sits rigid, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles are white. On the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant, Edward Shue, guilty, said the jury foreman. Mary Jane closes her eyes briefly. Her shoulders sagging with relief. Edward lunges toward her, restrained by deputies. Witch! You and your ghost stories! You'll pay for this, Edward said, snarling. As he's dragged away, he yells, I'll come back for you, like your daughter came back for me. The temperature in the courtroom seems to drop suddenly. Several people shiver involuntarily. Edward Shue was sentenced to life in prison. He died 3 years later of an unknown illness. Some said it was Zona's final justice. Others whispered that she visited him in his cell each night until his heart gave out from terror. Years later, at the cemetery, an elderly Mary Jane places flowers on her daughter's grave. The headstone reads, Zona Heaster Shue, 1873 to 1897. Justice was served. The case of the Greenbrier Ghost remains the only time in American judicial history where testimony from beyond the grave helped convict a murderer. Mary Jane touches the headstone gently. Rest now, child. Your work is done. So is mine, she said softly. Modern-day Greenbrier County at night. A historical marker stands by the roadside, illuminated by a car's headlights. It reads, The Greenbrier Ghost, site of the only case in which the testimony of a ghost helped convict a murderer. A young couple gets out of their car to read the marker. The woman shivers despite the warm summer night. Did you feel that? It just got freezing cold, the woman said. It's just a story. People see what they want, the man said, skeptical but uneasy. To this day, visitors to Greenbrier County report strange occurrences near Zona's grave. Cold spots on warm summer nights, the faint scent of lilac perfume, and occasionally, the figure of a young woman with a peaceful expression, still telling her story to those willing to listen. Some ghosts are born from tragedy, some from violence, but the Greenbrier Ghost was born from a mother's love and a victim's desperate need for justice. And perhaps that's why, after all these years, she still hasn't completely left this world. Justice. Remember.